From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamode Akuga.
Hello there, thanks for joining us. This is your show, the O&M Sunday Show. I am Obiora Ilo. My pleasure as always to have you sitting down and waiting for this time to come. Well, today we'll be focusing on two issues. No doubt that so much is happening around the country. I mean, for those that follow American politics, you saw the disgrace of the Trump government in the United States. Then in other places in Hong Kong, we have a new chief executive. For the first time, we have a woman supported by China. And of course, we continue to hear these terrorist incursions everywhere. This morning, we heard that somewhere in Ohio, in the United States, someone attacked a club. As we speak, one person is dead, 14 injured. It's a developing story. So much is happening around the world. If you come back to Nigeria, so much too is happening. But today, we are going to focus on two issues. One is, how can we achieve health for all in Nigeria? There's something that is called health financing. How much of it do you know? So today we talk about health financing and about the effort for people to have access to health wherever they may be, whether they're in rural areas, in big cities, they should have access to health finance. We have somebody very competent to talk about it today. We have Dr. Gafar Alawode, who is Chief of Party at the USAID Health Financing and Governorship Project. He's already seated in the studio. He'll be talking to us in a moment. Second topic, these past 2 weeks in the Senate, we've heard about people not obeying resolutions of the Senate. We remember Hamid Ali of the Customs, of course, the SGF, and, before now, so many of them. And the Senate is like, why won't people, show respect to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Well, some people are saying that the Senate is also guilty of what it's accusing other people, other institutions of doing. Why, for instance, will a court order that a candidate in an election be sworn in as a member of the Senate, and for months and weeks, the Senate will not do anything about it? The same thing for the House of Representatives. We have a number of people that have gone to court to challenge either their loss of the election or some other things about the election, and it ends up that the court says, swear him in, INEC issues a certificate of return, and then the Senate or the House of Representatives does not do anything about it. Today we'll be finding out what rights do they have not to do that. So is the Senate obeying court orders just like they want others to respect resolutions and decisions of the Senate? These two topics will occupy our time today. But right away, let me invite Dr. Gafar Alawode, who is Chief of Party, USAID Health, Finance and Governance Project, who is already in the studio to join us. Dr. Gafar, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Vera. The pleasure is mine.
Yeah, please sit down.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
I hear this every day, health financing. For a lot of Nigerians, the only thing they understand is that there's some kind of health in it. What is health financing?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, viewers, for listening to this very, very important discussion. Thank you, Vera, for inviting me. My name is Gafar, as you said. I work for USAID-funded Health Finance and Governance Project. Before I say something around health financing, let's quickly look at what do we want to achieve with health financing, which is the main international policy trust around health. And this is universal health coverage. Like you said earlier on in the introduction, meaning everybody should have access to health care without suffering financial hardship. But for that to happen, we have to look at how we're financing health. And when we talk about financing, it's not only health that we finance. We finance virtually anything we do in life. But why it is very, very important in this situation is that how you arrange, how you finance, putting the service there, and demand for the service play a lot of important role in determining whether some people will be able to have, whether many people will be able to have access or not. How do I mean? For us to get care, probably preventive and curative care, somebody has to provide the service. To provide the service in terms of putting infrastructure there, in terms of putting health workers there, in terms of putting the drugs there, in terms of putting necessary policy there, you need money to provide the service. But it's not only about providing the service. For somebody to come and access the service, we need money as well. But there are different ways of doing this. Is either somebody is coming at the point of at the point where he needs the care and is accessing the care, is paying out of pocket, which is the most popular, the commonest way where how people finance healthcare. But the problem is that you and I know that nobody knows the next episode of sickness. It is very possible for you to say, okay, my children are resuming in school in September, let me keep money somewhere. But it's a different ballgame entirely when it comes to health, because at the time you're assessing the care, you can't be so sure that the money will be there. And the fact that there's no money to start with will even prevent the thought of going to the health facility. So if you don't put a system in place where before somebody falls sick, there's a form of arrangement which is called prepayment. A prepayment system that at the point when you need the service, you don't have to think, where will I get the money? It is about how to put the system so that we are spending the money in, one, enough money. Two, spending in the way that we are going to get the best out of it, and spending in the way to reduce financial hardship associated with health seeking. That is what health financing is all about. Okay. How do we spend more and how do we spend well so that people will get their needed health services without being left out, irrespective of whether they are women, men, whether they are urban dweller or rural dweller, whether they are poor or rich. So how do we finance health in such a way that everybody will be able to access the care without suffering financial hardship? Let me quickly add this bit. You see, there are many causes of poverty. The one important cause of poverty is spending on healthcare. Because, for example, somebody that his wife needs cesarean section and everything. Imagine an Okada rider that the wife needs a cesarean section. At that point, probably what is needed is 25,000. They might not be able to afford it. Probably the next option is to sell the Okada itself, so that will offset the medical bill. And after that, there is no source of income again. That's invitation to poverty.
Okay, before we move further, is there a relationship or is health financing the same thing as health insurance?
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for answering this question, because this is the type of question people ask. And it's very, very important for us to clarify it. Health financing is the umbrella nomenclature, irrespective of the mechanism. And there's in the health financing terminology, that's what they call health financing mechanism. And that is system of financing. System of financing, it could be government paying directly. That's what they call free health care, that you don't even need to enroll, especially for free maternal and child. A lot of states practice that. That is one. Another one is that external financing, donor bringing their money to pay for preventive and curative service. That's another system. Another one is that system of health insurance, where people are registered, people are enrolled, they have certain benefit package, a package of care which they are entitled to as a result of registration, and they pay amount of money ahead, which they call premium. That is health insurance. So health insurance is one of the several mechanisms of health finance, of achieving, health finance. Achieving better health financing. Yeah.
Okay, you know, every government, every politician that is seeking for political office, one of the promises is health for all, water for all, power for all. How far our governments in Nigeria, and when I talk about governments, I'm talking about the federal, the state, and the local governments, how far have they keyed into health financing in Nigeria?
Okay, the truth of the matter is that government has been financing health for many years, ever since the government was in inception. I think the difference is there. How do we achieve two things through financing? One, how do we spend enough? Then, how do we spend well? There's this age-long argument around, is it about more money or is it about good utilization of the money? So it is about the two, because we have to spend, and there are a lot of international threshold and benchmark in terms of how much do we need to spend, how much does government needs to put on ground for us to spend. Then two, how do we spend it well? So come back to your question in terms of what are the main policy thrusts around better spending and universal health coverage. In fairness to the various administrations in the past and the present, I think there are a lot of policy trust geared towards achieving universal health coverage, achieving better spending, and all those stuff. Like you remember that in 2014 there was a presidential summit on universal health coverage, which brought people from different walks of life to look at how do we better finance health to achieve universal health coverage. And in this present administration is talking about revitalizing the primary healthcare system for universal health coverage. So the truth of the matter is that there are some policy truths. But the truth, again, another truth of the matter is that there are still gaps. And I believe the biggest room is room for improvement. So in terms of how much are we spending, we are not there yet. Because looking at international benchmark, looking at what proportion of government money should go into health, there's this Abuja declaration here in our own Abuja in 2001, which recommend 15% of government money spent on health. The international benchmark, which is asking for government to spend minimum of 5% of the GDP on health and all those stuff. So if you look at the international benchmark, we are not there yet. But there are policy trusts. Like let me give you an example. We are all aware that there's a national health act. We have National Health Act, which make provision for an earmarked amount of money called Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which is going to ring-fence certain amount of money that government will spend more on health. Then there's a policy trust towards decentralizing the health insurance scheme. You know, the coverage for health insurance is very, very small in Nigeria. There are some statistics that put it at less than 5% of the population. So to make it faster, the government is looking at, let's decentralize it. Because let states try as much as possible to manage health insurance scheme so that they will be able to put their money. Because part of the problem in the past is that the states are dragging their feet in terms of putting money in the national health insurance. So the policy trust from government is that, okay, for it to work better, let's decentralize it to the state for it to be better managed. But all these things require a more commitment. It requires institutional capacity strengthening. It requires participation of everybody so that it is going to work. So in summary, just to say that, of course, there are things on ground in terms of how to get there. But of course, there's still a huge gap that we need to fill.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll look more at how we can make health financing more effective. Don't go away.
Watching Nigeria's biggest late night show.
Without him enjoying his 90 days, he did all that within 2 days. Yet, I need delivery.
Okay, let me ask this question so that you
Please.
No, I want this, please.
No, please. It's not everything that the president goes to everywhere prognosing. In Agatu area you're talking about, the president put up a special presidential panel. How can the executive come and give us the rule that regulates our conduct within the National Assembly? That is interference.
For us to get the real budget as presented by Mr. President with the corrections, go through the budget process, pass it, so that things will start moving.
The name of the immediate past president owns a plot on the Metama Hill. Desiani Alice Maduke owns a plot on the Metama Hills. Then companies were also used to cover the faces of some individuals in Nigeria.
And the Attorney General, by virtue of his position, he is the only minister given such immense powers created in the Constitution by Section 150. Now, that kind of person should be careful when exercising those powers.
I am a proud Igbo woman and a proud Nigerian, and I have served this country. I love this country. Come to think of it, I'm not married to an Igbo man. I married a Yoruba Muslim.
I saw Bomali bedroom. Many people don't know that. You know, Bomali is like Elijah. I'm Elisha. Okay. I have the double portion.
When would the African people come together?
O&M Late Show and O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mahmoudia Kruger. Tuesdays, 11 p.m. and on Sunday, 2 p.m.
You're still watching your Sunday show, the O&M Sunday Show. I'm Obiora. And today we are looking at health financing in Nigeria. And my guest is Dr. Gafar Alawode, Chief of Party, You Said Health Financing and Governance Project. You know, when you started, in an answer to my question, you said, look, government has always been involved in health financing. So that leads to my question. What are the drawbacks? What are the impediments? What problems have we had over these years that up till today you still find out that in many local governments, in many rural communities, access to healthcare is still very distant and very expensive? What has been the challenges in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. Nigeria, like many other developing countries, I think there are a number of challenges. Let me start this way. I think we have to look at the way we make a case for health financing in terms of, the health agencies are not the one responsible for releasing the money. That's to be central agency, Ministry of Finance, economic planning, and whatever. I think we have to change the narrative because what we always say in the past is that our government give us more money, government is not releasing more money, and they know health is important because it's a matter of life and death. Very, very correct. But it's far more than that. We have to look at what other things should we tell government that makes it to resonate very well, that makes it for government to prioritize health finance. One is to make economic case, because money you are spending on health is not only to improve health, it's contributing to the economy as well, in terms of making people to be more productive, in terms of, and when people are productive, they contribute to the GDP, in terms of employment creation, and in terms of, people paying tax and everything when they're more productive. Then again, beyond the economic reason, let's try as much as possible to make political case for health. So we have to change the narrative. We have to let the governor know that, wait a minute, if you invest in health, if you put resources in health, it helps you politically. It helps you to showcase. Because, wait a minute, what is a politician looking for? A politician is looking for political capital. How do we make a case for that? Then again, the issue of engagement, intersectoral engagement. In the past, people in the health sector have not been taking the opportunity, talking to people in Ministry of Finance, speaking the language that people will understand, talking to the House of Assembly, letting them know what is about the policy thrust in health. How do we use the various functions of the lawmakers to achieve health? Like, for example, anywhere in any democracy, the lawmakers are responsible for appropriation, they are responsible for legislation, accountability, ownership, and representation. All these things are very, very important for health. Let's see how do we engage them so that they will appropriate for health, they will legislate for health, and they will hold people accountable for how this money is being used. It is very, very important. Then another one is the issue of governance generally. Of course, governance is a very broad one. But now when I say governance, I mean, do we have necessary policy and laws and legislations in place? There are instances where we actually have them. But the problem is implementation. How do we ensure that we engage we have foster multi-sectoral coalition and consensus building on health, so that our policy will work, so that our institution will be strong enough to spend the money. You'll be surprised that at times the problem is that ability to spend the money. So strengthen the institution, improving the issue of accountability, because at times the challenge is that they say you are not accountable, so why are you asking for more? So how do we bring the citizen so that we try as much as possible to be more accountable? Then again, the existing policy trust. How do we ensure that they work? We have policy trust around the basic care provision fund. How do we allocate more money for health and all this stuff? How do we ensure that the policy trust is working? The decentralization that I mentioned earlier on, how do we ensure that it's actually working? How do we track resources from the beginning to the end and show people that, wait a minute, the amount of money given to health, it is buying this amount of health, and not only health. This is how it is aligning to improving the economic and the political capital for the policy makers. So I think those are some of these things that we need to do.
Okay, the project which you are at the head, you've had some activities in a couple of states in Nigeria. Can you tell us what you have learned, extending your job to these states? What you've talked about the general challenges. What are the specific challenges that you're having in those states where you have been operational?
Okay, thank you very much. I think there are a number of challenges, but I'll mention just a couple of them. The problem is the general economic situation. A lot of states are struggling to meet up their basic basic things that they're supposed to do. Just like, for instance, a state that is struggling to pay salary. That state might find it extremely difficult to put more money in financing health. Probably the only thing we can do in that situation is, wait a minute, the little one that you have, are you spending the money well? Then again, part of the problem is that I think to some extent our institutions are a little bit weak, especially at the subnational level. We have a weak institution. If you go to some ministry, one, do they have enough manpower to design the policy, to implement the policy? Because the truth of the matter is that if you don't have the capacity to put policy in place and implement policy, maybe a donor will just come and help you to develop the policy. And you develop the policy, and the people in the Ministry of Health might not even understand the content of the policy, and it is not implemented. So the issue of institutional capacity is another a problem. Then another problem which we see is that we have different institutions that are not working together. We have Ministry of Health in most cases that operate in silos. We have other agencies that even within the health sector, coordinating the health sector effectively is a challenge. Though we're trying as much as possible to address some of these things. And when you coordinate, then you need to talk to other agencies. You need to talk to the House of Assembly. You need to talk to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. So there's what they call intersectoral coordination. It's a challenge. It's not there. Then intersectoral collaboration, which is very, very important for us to, if you want to spend more money on health, we have to talk to the custodian of the fund. We have to convince them and everything. And we have to tell them, let them know that we are very, very accountable. So the other problem of institutional capacity, the problem of fiscal constraint generally is there, and the issues around accountability. I think and citizen involvement, people to know, wait a minute, what are you doing on our behalf? How could we be part of this process? I think those are some of the challenges. But the truth of the matter is that, let me say, beyond challenges, I think at the subnational level, I think the political will is there. I think that's another good thing, which I've seen a lot of governors are involved in the issue of introducing state-supported health insurance scheme, and they are showing a lot of commitment. But of course, some of these challenges are still there, but I don't believe there's a challenge that we cannot overcome with.
How about manpower development training?
Okay, in terms of how we respond to some of these challenges, one, we respond in three main areas. One, supporting the state to put in place necessary policy, legal, and institutional framework. Part of the institutional framework, let me mention, is that, okay, for you to improve financing, within the Ministry of Health, there should be a unit that is responsible for managing the finances, for ensuring that
knowing what has come in, how it's being used, and monitor it, down to the smallest level.
Thank you very much. There should be a unit. So we are supporting the ministry to put in place that unit. Then it's not only about putting office structure. The people, the human being that should have the capacity to manage it, to ensure that more money is allocated, that more money is being released, to track what is being released, and to develop the policy around mobilizing additional resources, to develop policy around pooling of resources, and to develop policy around what they call strategic purchasing, so that we are spending the money effectively. Then again, beyond the Ministry of Health, there's what they call multi-sectorial structure, where people from different ministries will be able to come together and say, wait a minute, Ministry of Finance will be able to, Ministry of Health will be able to tell Ministry of Finance, we have so things in our budget. How do we get it released? And Ministry of Finance will ask questions. When this money is released, what are you using it for, and all those stuff like that? And then build capacity across that structure, so that people in Ministry of Finance to have the necessary basic knowledge around health financing, the understanding. Then again, our state has put in place state health insurance scheme. Of course, there is need for institutional capacity for them to have necessary tool, policy, procedures, and even the legal framework setting it up. That's why we talk to House of Assemblies to engage them. Of course, the National Health Insurance put a template in place, but we need to engage the House of Assembly so that there's a clear understanding of what we need to do and all those stuff like that. So we along this chain of activities, we build capacity, we hold, we support them with training, healthcare financing training, where first and foremost we look at what are the basic concepts of health financing. When we say health financing, what do we mean? Because part of what we learn is that when you talk about health finances, people think you are talking about the accountant or department of financing and admin. So we need to be on the same page.
Yes, because I was going to say, this whole thing is for the people.
Exactly.
How are they carried along? How are they educated? How are they enlightened? So they can buy.
Exactly.
Buy into this great idea.
Okay, thank you. I think there are different platforms to ensure that there is citizen buy-in into this concept and all that. Like, for example, I talk about several multi-sectoral structures. Approaches. We ensure that representatives of civil society, people in the community, the end user, they are part of this structure as much as possible. Then we're engaging effectively the media, because for you to reach out to many people, you need the media, both the traditional media and the social media and all those stuff, to ensure that people have the understanding of, wait a minute, what is health insurance all about? What do I stand to gain? What should I do? Should I expect? What do I need to do, and everything like that? Because it's supposed to be people-centered. If it is not people-centered, it's going to fail.
Okay, I think that's where we'll leave it for today. There's so much to talk about when we are talking about health financing, so I guess you'll be here again. Dr. Gafar Alawode, Chief of Party, you said Health Financing and Governance Project. But before you go, I have a little gift for you, something to keep on your table.
Oh, that's great.
Also remind you on the O&M show.
Okay, thank you very much, Avira. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So we'll take a break. Not really a break. We'll just take a little break to allow Dr. Gafar take his leave, while I right away invite the man that will enlighten us more on why the Senate has to obey court orders, and is joined by our own Tietie to analyze the situation. Gentlemen, glad to welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gafar. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Well, just when I was introducing, I talked about what we've heard in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, about people disregarding the Senate and all the hula baloo about it. And then we see this accusation by other people against the Senate that they don't also obey court orders. Let me take you to a very perfect example. In Akwa Ibom State, to be precise, in Akwa Ibom Northeast Senatorial District, the court, the Federal High Court in Uyo on February 27, ordered that Basi Etim should be sworn in as the senator representing that senatorial zone, and that Basi Albert Akpan, who is there now, should vacate, not only vacate, but pay back whatever he's been paid to the National Assembly. That is one. I know about a couple of issues in Enugu State, for instance, where people got judgment ordering them to take their positions and for those there to vacate, and nothing has been done. What latitude does the Senate have in a matter like this not to obey the decision of the court? Let me start with you.
Thank you. I would say when a court order is given and it is direct that a certificate of returns be issued to a candidate that won the primary election, there is no latitude on the part of the Senate than to comply forthwith. INEC had already complied with the court order.
By issuing a certificate of return.
And the certificate of return is what gives you the power to be sworn in by the Senate President. All you need to do is present it to the authority in the Senate. And the only thing we are giving is, okay, come today, come tomorrow, and be sworn in. So there is nothing that needs to be done other than on the presentation
of that
document that empowers you to be sworn in. You are sworn in.
Okay, let me go specifically back to the Basi Etim, Basi Albert Akpan issue.
Okay.
And I'll come to you, Tietie. This matter is what you lawyers call pre-election matter, which I know moves from the High Court to the Appeal Court, and it could go as far as the Supreme Court. So why should the Senate, for instance, obey this order by the Federal High Court when there's still room for both parties to go as far as the Supreme Court?
Well, we have just one order. There is no order from the Court of Appeal, neither there is any order from the Supreme Court. And I'm glad you know that this is a pre-election matter. It is not the same with a matter that emanates from an election personal tribunal. In this case, like Taiwo has rightly said, there is no option on the part of the Senate, particularly the Senate President in this case, to say it is not obeying. The first thing you do when there is an order of court is to be obeyed immediately. Even when an appeal is filed, it does not constitute a stay. Now, in this case, there is a right distinction. That is a pre-election matter that has to do with who is the right candidate of the PDP to have contested the election in the first place, whether it was Basi Etim or it was Basi Albert Akpan. The court rightly decided in its judgment, final judgment for that matter, that is, it is Honorable Basi Etim that should be sworn in forthwith, immediately. Now, the Senate at that point didn't need to consider an issue of politics, but to obey law. And I must say this at this point, that Senator Bukola Saraki must ensure that it is the kind of ridicule that the Senate is going through now. He must ensure that it is not in his time, that the Senate will not be seen as an obedient or as a democratic institution that is not obeyed, that does not also obey court orders. Saraki must wake up to realize that, look, the Senate must be the bastion of democracy by obeying. Now, what we see is a situation where the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is kowtowing, is now respecting politics above the obedience to court order. And that's dangerous for our democracy. And it is Saraki that is responsible.
Okay. Forgive me if I ask questions that... but assuming Saraki obeys this court order, and swears in Basi Etim, and Basi Albert Akpan leaves the Senate
immediately,
and then Basi Akpan goes to the appeal court and gets judgment in his favor. What happens?
You see, is
it not better that the Senate President just waits until they exhaust all the legal opportunities they have.
No, in pre-election matters, it presupposes that the man in whose favor judgment was given should have been there right from the word go, right from 2015, when the 8th Assembly came into being.
Yes.
So, when you now have judgment, either from the High Court or from the Federal High Court, you are sworn in immediately.
So what happens if the other man gets a judgment from the appeal court?
Precedent has already been laid in Kogi East.
What happened? Please educate us.
What I'm saying is this. Senator Aidoko is there now from Kogi East. I think he lost in the Federal High Court. Then I don't know the name. He vacated. Then the man that won was sworn in. And eventually, when he won in the Court of Appeal, he was sworn in.
And the other man vacated.
The other man vacated. And I'm aware the matter is now in Supreme Court. So whoever wins in Supreme Court ultimately will be sworn in. So it is different from a matter that was commenced in the Election Petition Tribunal. Because in pre-election, the winner is supposed to have been there. Honorable Basi Etim should have been there, not
Albert.
Not Basi Albert, by the judgment of the Federal High Court.
You're burning to say something.
No, because there's something we need to correct here. The subject matter is obedience to court order, and if you must extend it to representation of a people, who is the right representative? If you are the right representative, represent the people now, not after, when the Senate is over. If you're not the right representative, leave now. Don't take another man's position. That is the spirit of the law. It doesn't matter what you think or how you feel, whether you are PDP or APC, or you are Senate President or Deputy Senate President, how you feel about it. It doesn't matter about it. We, apart from the example he set up he cited in Kogi, we have that of Martin Okonta in Delta. He was Speaker. He stepped down. He was asked to step down. He left as Speaker. And then eventually he won. He came back. Now, that is our law. Our law is dispassionate. What we must see, because the idea of law is to create certainty. Now, what do you do to a situation where somebody abuses the process of court, just like the way Basi Albert has done? Look at what Basi Albert has done. Knowing full well, his lawyers advising him, knowing full well that he no longer has a ground to represent the people of Akwa Ibom Northeast in the Senate, rushes quickly to an Abuja High Court, a Federal High Court, to interpret the judgment of another Federal High Court sitting in Uyo. What a corrupt abuse of the process of court. And happily and good for democracy and good for the name of the judiciary, Justice Nandi Digba washed his hands totally from the matter by withdrawing on Friday, that he cannot entertain such a matter, even though because it's so manifestly clear to him.
No, but his reason was not because he'd been asked to interpret the judgment of a Federal High Court. He said an online, let me get it right, an online publication had made insinuations to his bias or otherwise.
The question is...
But it wasn't based on the fact...
No. The question is, why would an online publication make any reference? Is it not because of the anomaly? Is it not because of the aberration of a justice of the Federal High Court sitting over an appeal over the judgment of another Federal High Court? It is unthinkable. In fact, it is unknown to the jurisprudence of Nigerian law. In fact, if you expected the judge to say that, oh, it's because I didn't know what I was doing, that's why I'm withdrawing. The judge had to say, go and read the online publication. It was simply saying that, look, we haven't seen this kind of thing before happening in our jurisprudence. A Federal High Court, and that's the reason why. Look, we should look behind the reason. And it is expected, and I can assure you, no judge of the Federal High Court will sit over that kind of matter. It is good he has eventually washed off his hands. Now, that is the extent to which we want to corrupt our democracy. And then the Senate is not rising up to protect democracy by doing the right thing, by obeying a simple court order.
Okay, Tietio, you know you're getting worked up.
No. It's annoying when we put in so much to defend of democracy and a few elements want to use the court process to destroy it.
Okay.
It is wrong.
Taiwo, in a situation like this, what can Basi Etim do legally? How can he seek redress? How can he get his position back in a situation like this that it looks like the Senate is not willing to let him in?
Well, the legal redress he could seek has already been sought. A man has gone to court that I was the duly nominated candidate of the PDP to represent Akwa Ibom Northeast. And the court looks at the evidence before it, and the court gave judgment. You, INEC, go and issue fresh certificate of returns. The one issued earlier to Basi Albert is hereby set aside. And it was presented to the authority in the Senate.
Yes, and they have not done anything. What can Basi Etim do? That's what I'm saying. And, I mean,
you see, I think we are putting too much on Basi Etim. Basi Etim is just a candidate representing his people. He has done the right thing. The court has declared that he's done the right thing. The onus, I believe, is on the representative who voted for Basi Etim. I mean, the constituents.
What should they do?
The constituents should demand the Senate of the Federal Republic to swear in their true and rightful representative, who is Basi Etim. And if the Senate refuses to do so, and that's the reason why we are warning Saraki that, please, let's stop this idea of ridiculing the Nigerian Senate. It is either this issue today or this issue tomorrow. We haven't seen a sitting Senate president being tried in the Code of Conduct Bureau before. We haven't seen all these things happening. We shouldn't further begin to drag the name of the Senate down. What should happen now is that the constituents that Honorable Basi Etim represent should now go to tell the Senate president, swear this man in within the next 24 hours, or else we will do the needful. The needful is this: take the Senate president to court. I mean, file the normal processes against him for contempt, because he's refusing to obey a valid court order of a Nigerian court. He doesn't have immunity. He can be sent to prison. This is not between the Honorable Basi Etim and the Senate president. It's between the Senate president refusing to obey an order of court concerning the representation of the people of Akwa Ibom Northeast. The people of Akwa Ibom Northeast are angry. This is not fair.
But can the court that gave this order do anything else?
Of course.
Like I just
taking,
want to make a point.
Okay.
That under the provision of Section 287(3) of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the decisions of the Federal High Court and the High Court of the State and that of FCT Abuja is to be enforced in every part of the Federation by every authorities and persons. So the refusal by the Senate authority not to swear in Honorable Basi Etim after the presentation of his certificate of return is contrary to Section 287 subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, and is actionable, like Frank Tietie said. Is punishable by contempt.
And the most dangerous thing about it is
so the Senate president can be cited for contempt.
The Senate is thinking that the constituents in Akwa Ibom North will have to approach the Uyo Federal High Court in order to issue contempt orders against it. No, it is not only the Uyo Federal High Court that can do that. The FCT High Court, because the courts of Nigeria have a very serious responsibility to protect their integrity. If any judge hears that the Senate president is disobeying a valid court order of a Federal High Court sitting in Uyo, he can be cited for contempt. And let us now imagine Saraki, who is undergoing a trial for corruption under CCB, now again being cited for contempt for a simple obedience of court order. The people of Akwa Ibom, I'm in touch with them, I'm in touch with the constituents, and they tell me that, look, we can't understand this. This is our representative, and for goodness sake, we want you to be there for no matter how short the time is. He should be there. It's enough that there has been an aberration, a man who did not even contest an election. Because what these constituents understand is that Basi Albert Akpan only wanted to become governor. And when he saw that, he couldn't be governor anymore, somehow rushed in to become, to run for Senate. And then he never took form. And then why this kind of aberration? And why should the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria be conniving with such elements? It is not proper.
Okay. You said that what they can do is sue the Senate president.
Yeah, he should be cited for contempt.
No, I mean the constituents.
Yes.
No, they have to go to court for him to be cited.
Of course, yes.
Okay. So, can the police be of help in this matter?
Well, you see, I don't think so.
No, police cannot be of help.
No. You see, let's understand something. Police is purely an agency of the executive. Even when the National Assembly wants to issue an order to arrest somebody to compel him to come to be present, he has to issue the order to the IG. In this case, the court is the Sheriff and Civil Process Act that's in charge here. The sheriff can actually arrest the Senate president for refusing to obey the order of the court.
The sheriff of the court.
The sheriff, yes, the sheriff of the court.
They enforce court orders. They enforce court orders under the Sheriff and Civil Process Act.
The matter has reached that point. The constituents of Akwa Ibom Northeast are angry. They believe that, look, this man, Basi Albert, never contested election. He was not part of it. He stole an election, and the court have rightly said, look, refund the money, vacate, and then you still have an institution, a respected institution like the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria refusing to obey that order, depriving the people of their right to be represented. It's unthinkable.
No, but because we've had cases like this. I did cite some cases in Enugu State, for instance, where people had gone to court, got this court order, got a certificate of return from INEC, and they have still not occupied the positions that they're supposed to occupy. What can be done? What can be done? Because yours is not an isolated case. And the argument has been that, look, this matter goes up to the Supreme Court, so why should I be in a hurry to...
We have made a distinction between the two issues. In a situation where it's a pre-election matter.
These cases also are pre-election cases.
Now, you see, the law does not aid the indolent person. The law does not aid people who refuse to do nothing.
No, but Etim has gone to the...
has done all the things that he needs to... You mean Alban?
Albert has gone to the Appeal Court.
Of course, he is entitled. That's his right.
That's right.
But that does not stop the implementation, the enforcement of a judgment, a valid judgment of a court.
There's no...
If there are people who have the same situation, who are not in the House of Representatives, it is because the constituents, what we fail to understand is that the constituents have rights. When they go and say this man is a better representative than this other man, and by popular vote is authentic representative, you are depriving them of their right to be so represented. Now, if I take you on that case of Enugu State, it is because the constituents have done nothing about it. But the reason why I am exasperated about this is when this constituent called me as a civil rights activist and said, look, we have our man in Abuja, he hoped to be representing us, what is happening? And I tell them that, look, this is what ought to happen. And that's what we're telling the Senate President. Senate President, obey the law, obey the legal process. Don't allow politics to override
No, you keep talking about politics.
Yes.
What is the politics?
Politics is about two political parties. One person, one person having overbearing influence on the Senate leadership, and then
but Basi Etim and Basi Albert of the same party.
Look closely into the politics. You will find that Basi Albert is now romancing with APC. Now, you don't know what happens behind the scenes of how much, the rigmarole and then the backslapping that takes place between Basi Etim and the leadership of the Senate. That doesn't concern the law. Whatever politics is okay. It's a game of interest.
These are just insinuations. You are thinking this is what is happening.
No, you leave room for insinuations when it is glaring. When it is clear to everybody that, look, there is an aberration and you seem not to be doing about it. You're doing nothing about it. So you leave the room for people to speculate. What do you expect me to think? When there is a valid court order, Basi Albert cannot continue to represent the people of Akwa Ibom Northeast. When there is a valid court order out in Nigeria, why am I still a lawyer? If a court order cannot be obeyed, why should the Senate President be complaining that his simple summon to Hamid Ali cannot be obeyed when he is refusing to obey a mighty valid court order of the Federal High Court? What is he talking about order?
No, but you are a civil rights lawyer. Can you take this? Can you take the Senate President to court in this matter? I'm asking. I have a long list of constituents of Akwa Ibom Northeast who have contacted me, and I believe that apart from the interest of the people of Akwa Ibom Northeast, it is in the overall interest of our country, and even in my interest as a lawyer, that I do something that shows that the valid orders of a Nigerian court are obeyed by every authority. So definitely, I will take action against the national the leadership of the Senate President. I mean, the leadership of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly the Senate President. I will take action.
if he doesn't obey the law. If he sits and presides over the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and begins to denigrate, begins to disrespect the valid order of the Nigerian court, I may take action against him.
No, but the lawyers of Bassi Albert, what can they do?
Bassi Albert, that is
the lawyers of Bassi Etim.
What they can do?
What can they do now? Because we are stuck somehow.
Yes.
So what would be the way forward?
The way forward.
Because it's possible that, Frank Tete keeps expressing his anger and all that, and nothing happens. And the constituents are back home complaining about their disenfranchisement, and nothing happens. So what is the injection that can make something happen in a matter like this?
Like Frank Tete has already said, Honorable Bassi Etim has done what is required of him to do as a law-abiding citizen. He has gone to court to enforce his right to represent the Akwa Ibom, the people of Akwa Ibom Northeast Senatorial District. Judgment has been given in his favor. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware of any order for stay of execution of that particular order. Neither has the appellate court set aside that particular judgment. Therefore, it behoves every authority and person subject to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to obey that judgment. And I believe that if properly advised, the Senate President will do the needful to ensure that the order, a valid order of a court of competent jurisdiction, is not violated. Because once it is violated, consequences will follow. There will be reaction. And that is why I said I don't think we should be thinking of that reaction except if the circumstances warrant it. I think the Senate leadership, they will obey the law. Maybe there are politicking here and there, but there should be end to politicking. The leadership of the Senate should be seen as one that is obedient to a valid order of court, that will obey a valid order of court until it is set aside. Like I've referred to Section 287, Subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution. It is binding on all authorities and persons. And the Senate leadership is part of the authority of Nigeria.
Okay, finally, Tete, let me give you the last word in this matter. What would be your final advice to the leadership of the Senate? And then for politicians all over Nigeria, because you're talking about a dent on our country. If we are going to be accused of not obeying,
two things. An attempt to abuse the process of court, to give the courts a bad name, to give the judge a bad name. Because, and then, in order for you heard of those era of black market injunctions where you just obtain certain injunctions, will pay heavily, and that's why you see judges being arrested and being harassed, which has been a serious embarrassment to those of us in the legal profession. We cannot afford. Our democracy is built on law. And it can only be smooth if we as a people have that, what in theory they call constitutionalism. That is, you govern according to the spirit and letters of the Constitution. Now, the institutions of government, like the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, cannot afford to be instruments of disruption of the tenets of democracy. And that's what we are seeing in the case of Honorable Bassi Etim. Now, a valid court order, a judge without any taint.
So you're telling them to obey
in their own interest. Because if Saraki now...
And the interest of Nigeria.
Even in their own interest. It is in the interest of the president if he obeys court order. It is in the interest of Saraki if he obeys court order. Because tomorrow, the president will also cite in this example and ride roughshod of whatever the National Assembly says. It is expected that they sway in on the Bassi Etim immediately in their own interest.
Okay,
to save them from unnecessary embarrassment.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I hope they are listening and that the right thing should be done.
Thank you.
But Taiwo, this is your first time on our show, so
It is true.
I have a gift for you.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful. Thanks.
And that's our package. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let's do it again Tuesday night, 11 p.m. I am Obiora Ilo from Abuja in Nigeria. Thanks for watching.
From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Sunday Show with Obiora.